Welcome to Type Tune Tint. I'm Tom Kranz. Today we have a return appearance by my most popular guest to date. I first met Charles Wiedemann in the summer of 2022 when he published his book Lawndale, about the Philadelphia neighborhood we both grew up in. Now he's released his new book, Down the Shore, an affectionate look at Wildwood, a legendary Jersey Shore resort where many Philly kids spent their summers, and some, like Chaz, were lucky enough to have summer homes. And I'm joined by Charles Wiedemann, who, ladies and gentlemen, is, and I don't know if you know this, Chaz, call you Chaz, right? That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. You're
so
right.
Charles here is my number one podcast guest. In the 3 years I've done this, no one has attracted more attention and more downloads of this podcast than the episode we did with you when we talked about your book Lawndale, which was last fall or last summer. Has it been a year yet? I don't even know.
It was August 9th on my 60th.
Right, coming up a year ago. And that book, Lawndale, which is about our old neighborhood in Philadelphia, Northeast Philadelphia, it rang a chord with somebody, I don't know, and we posted it on the Lawndale members group on Facebook, and the sucker just took off. I mean, people just love the nostalgia. They love the old stories because they identify with life, as we mentioned earlier, in a simpler time. And so now, at that time, you kind of gave a tease that you were going to be writing a book about your summers in Wildwood. And here it is, Down the Shore. And that's not, folks, down at the shore. If you live where we lived, it's down the shore. You're going down the shore. You spent the weekend down the shore.
People asked me, why didn't you just call the book Wildwood? Your other book was called Lawndale. And I said, well, you know, the second question is always Wildwood. The first question is, what are you doing this summer? Oh, we're going down the shore. Where? Wildwood. So
right. But, you know,
I'll go with the Philly term.
Absolutely. And as I told you just before we started rolling, I only got the book 3 days ago. I'm about a third of the way through it. But it's really about more than just this spot at the Jersey Shore. It's about, of course, it's about the Jersey Shore and about the iconic town of Wildwood, which is actually, it's kind of an East Coast iconic shore town for people from all over the place to go. Canadians come to Wildwood, which I didn't know myself until some years ago, but there's a huge following among Canadians who like Wildwood. I'm going to read a couple passages, but in your words, what do you think how do you capsulize the feeling of going to the shore and the Jersey Shore and what it means to people in Philly and South Jersey?
I think not everybody got to go to the shore all summer like my family did. We were very lucky. But for most people, I would say the heat of the city, that oppressive heat, being in the city and that humidity, to get in the car and drive for an hour and a half or 2 hours to go down to the beach where it's cooler and, you're in the ocean and they've got that incredible boardwalk with all those amusements and the nightlife. It was like going to some foreign exotic land for most people, a weekend or maybe a week or two, and that was it. So
here's what you say very early in your book, and I dog-eared this page because I just thought it was so perfect. Each summer evening, the American dream was played out along the boardwalks. More than 70,000 wooden planks, classic rides, and old-fashioned amusements stood toe-to-toe with 20th century innovation and excitement. 5 amusement piers boasted more rides than Disneyland, complete with world-class roller coasters, family-friendly attractions, and cutting-edge dark thrill rides like the Hellhole, which we'll talk about. In addition, a seemingly endless array of restaurants and shops offered everything from classic boardwalk fare like funnel cakes, homemade fudge, saltwater taffy, to seafood specials, gourmet pizza, and contemporary casual beach snacks. That really, I mean, if I had to pick a paragraph that kind of capsulized the experience for me, I'd say that was it. Unlike you, my shore experience was Ocean City, New Jersey. And that was because my grandmother was a housekeeper for a rich couple who had a second house in the Garden District of Ocean City. And we went there many times over the summer and visited her, and they treated us like family and was great. But
nice.
All those South Jersey shore resorts, they share kind of the same, I don't know if the word mystique is correct, but the same kind of feeling of family, of kind of going to a completely different place than the inner city neighborhoods that we grew up in. So that feeling, you talk about that and talk about it a little bit here about when you were a kid and it was time to pile into the car and go down to the shore. That felt great, didn't it?
Oh, it was amazing. And, I'd said in one of the chapters, there was sometimes, you'd all be packed. They'd stop the mail, they'd stop the newspapers, and it was going to happen on Saturday. And my dad would roll up the driveway home from work on a Friday night, and we'd be pretty much ready to go for tomorrow. And he'd say, "Gang, what do you say we go tonight?" And we'd cheer. "Oh, we're going tonight." I'm getting goosebumps just, envisioning this. And he goes, "The best thing about going tonight," and we're like, "What?" And he goes, "Because when you wake up tomorrow, you're already going to be there. So you'll wake up in Wildwood."
Yeah,
So
that's early in your book.
that
I
was
love
amazing.
that. Yeah, exactly. Where you guys had a house down there, correct?
Yeah, and we still do. It's still in the family. It is at 8th and Surf in North Wildwood.
So North Wildwood is different from Wildwood. Wildwood, talk about that geography a little bit.
Wildwood is the center of town. There's 5 little, there's Wildwood Crest, which is mostly, that was always like the wealthy, kind of quiet, upscale part of, the Beverly Hills of Wildwood. And then Wildwood is like the folks from Northeast Philly and K&A and all the us regular folk go to Wildwood, where that's where the whole boardwalk is, and all the food and the nightclubs and the bars and the amusement rides. North Wildwood is a little more, it's north of that from 26th Street to 2nd Street. And it's more of a, kind of a quaint, quiet little part of the town that, my dad found a house in 1971 and said, "This is what we want to do. I want to have this," so.
So you were among the lucky Philadelphia kids who had a place down the shore. I mean,
Only kid on our street, only
that
kid
was
that I knew
cool.
in our neighborhood. Nobody else. I don't know how we lucked out on that. My dad was, "I'm doing this," so he
He
made it happen.
obviously, yeah, he had a mandate to do it at whatever cost it was. But look at how it paid off. That's an investment in family life that there's no substitute for.
Yeah, that's in the acknowledgments when I thank my parents, I go, "Thanks to my father for buying the house and to my mother for going along with it." Because in 1971, $40,000 for a house a block and a half from the beach as a second home is a fortune, which is laughable now. But yeah, he did that
Yeah,
for
really.
us.
Did you have friends down? I mean, did you have friends who like spent weekends with you?
They would let us have some of our friends come down. My friend Michael Mitchell from the neighborhood was down. His sister Margie with my sister Jane, my friend RJ McMeans. They'd be down for a few days, and the kids loved it. We'd go to the go-karts out in Anglesey, and we'd go on the rides on the boardwalk. And there's, I believe, a picture of me, my sister Jane, RJ McMeans, and Margie Mitchell all standing on the beach. And, we're kids. It's like 74, so.
Are you still in touch with Rich or Richie from pitching?
Not so much now, but I could hit the phone and he'd probably pick up. He's retired now. But Rich was probably my best friend who lived around the corner from me every summer in Wildwood.
Yeah, you have a chapter called Pitchy, Pitchy. And I said, wow, what the hell could this be? So explain what that was.
So there was a kid that lived next door to me, and he took me around the corner to meet this other boy, because we were little guys, and what am I? I'm 8, I'm 9, 10 years old. And they had a nice little gray house on the corner of 7th and Ocean. But outside it was this tiny little, like a kid's clubhouse, like a miniature version of the house. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Because, if you read the Lawndale book, we're always building forts and tree houses, and any little cubby space that we could have as kids, we loved. So the kid's in there. We would just walk up and he's sitting inside his little, it looked like a little gray log cabin. And over the door, it said Pitchy. And I'm like, oh, hi, Pitchy. I'm Charlie, And he goes, my name is Rich. I go, why does it say Pitchy outside? He goes, the tail of the R fell off for the name Richie. So, and then we just started calling him Pitchy. My parents were even calling him Pitchy for a while. But I mean, as he got older and became, like a Wildwood cop and all that, I mean, you just call him Rich or Richard.
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
But yeah, it was so cute. And he was the kid that always had the fireworks because they traveled a little bit, so they owned his father owned a florist up in Woodland, New Jersey. So it seemed like they had money because the mom drove a big Mark IV and everything, and nobody had tons of money, but they were doing okay. But he always had like fireworks and stuff to do, and he was like a really neat guy to spend time with.
That's a cool story. Another cool part. So the book is it's like over 400 pages. And I remember you talking a year ago when you had just finished Lawndale that you were going to write this book. So I'm guessing this book has taken you almost a year to write. And when I thumbed through the rest of it, as I said, I've only gotten a third of the way through. So there is so much stuff in here. I want to know, first of all, how did you remember all this stuff? Did you just like wake up multiple times at 3 a.m. and say, oh shit, I got to put that in the book? Did that happen many, many times? Or did you outline this? Or how did you get to write this thing?
It started 5 years ago when I decided to just maybe tell a story from the past in my blog, and just took a shot at it and wrote about my experience working as a pool boy at the El Moro. I think it might still be in the blog. I don't know. But I went, oh, these are cool stories. Who knows what I'll do with them? It seems interesting. But there were times, like you said, where something pops and I have to stop what I'm doing and go to my phone and just jot it down into my notepad on my phone under a heading that just says Wildwood. And there's tons of it to scroll through, just idea after idea and memory after memory. Like, I can't forget the tram car. I can't forget the ice cream man on the beach. I can't forget the planes that pull the signs. And it was maddening because I felt, oh, I don't want to forget anybody, and I don't want to forget any part of Wildwood, because more than anything else, there have been documents and books and stuff on the internet about the history of Wildwood, and you can see videos and everything. But I wanted to capture that feeling, Tom, and that is the main part of this book. I want you to feel what we felt being there in the summer.
You totally did. I mean, you all those little memories, so many of them triggered memories in me, and again, I'm a Philly kid, and I went to the shore many times, a different place, but kind of the same. A couple things that I wanted to talk about. You just mentioned when you were a pool boy at the El Moro Motel. So you have a whole chapter about how you got that job, and it was like this kind of semi-dream job. You made $40 a week, which was like a fortune in those days. And, you kind of were on your own a little bit. You had to do this and that, and then you came back and you put the stuff away. But that motel, and there's a picture of it in the book, which I'm going to show our viewers here. It's such a typically classic Jersey Shore motel with the neon lights and all the rooms on the tiers kind of arranged around the pool, right?
Right.
Even though you're at the shore, these places all had pools. And what was that experience like as a kid who, had a first job, really?
Well, in the book, I talk about, and I talk about this in Lawndale. I wasn't the best student, and things weren't going well for me, and they wanted to keep me on a short leash the summer of '77 because I had done so poorly my last year, which was 9th grade.
They meaning your parents?
They, yes, that's my parents.
Yes.
I'm sorry, the wardens. They were like, you're going to, and my father, he says, you're going to be a prisoner of love. And I was like, what is the prisoner of love? What is that? And it would be me doing like menial tasks, semi-grounded. Yeah, you're at the shore, but you're going to be scrubbing the rust off the bicycles and, washing windows and cutting the lawn and everything, which we did anyway. But I was like, this is a nightmare. And I was walking down the street at 10th and Ocean, and I saw pool boy wanted, or a help wanted sign on the door of this motel. And I had just happened to look up, and I went in and said, I want to apply for a job. And I was 14 going on 15, and I didn't know how to apply for a job or how to get a job. But I go, whatever it is, it has to be better than school, and it has to be better than scrubbing rust off of bicycles. So I'm a little skinny, like 90-year-old pound weakling. So the guy, I guess, looks at me and goes, the kid seems presentable. And I go home and tell my parents, and that completely lifted the curse. I was on parole, My mom took me to City Hall. We got my working papers because you can only work a certain amount of hours when you're a kid.
Mm.
And I get the job. And I get up early every morning at like 6:30 or something to be there at 7 a.m. because you want it clean and open for the tourists, they're staying there, the guests. So every day with no day off, I would have to get up and go there and go through a list of tasks. I mean, you can see in the book, there's like a whole paragraph of my job description, which
Sure.
for a 14-year-old kid that's never had a job, I was the entire maintenance crew for this.
Yeah, I was just
motel.
going to say, it wasn't just being the pool boy. You did all kinds of stuff for that motel.
Yeah, like sweeping and vacuuming and washing windows upstairs. They really got it out of me. But the thing was, I'm here from 7 to 11, 11:30, maybe noon. And then I've got the rest of the day to myself. And my parents love me now. I'm like, oh, he has a job. He goes there every day and they like him and he's being a good boy. And, my parents' generation, go to school, get a job. Oh, he went and got a job on his own. Here he comes. And that summer, as I said, it felt like a dream. And when it's over, you can't believe it happened. But then you realize it really did. And it was a life-changing summer for me to get that job and work there and meet the people that I did and go on the adventures that I had.
It sounded like the beginning of kind of the end of the shittiness of your adolescence. This struck a chord with me too, because you talk about how you were just not such a great student in junior high. Ninth grade was one of your worst grades. Ninth grade was my first grade at Central High, and it was probably my worst school year ever because I was fat. I still had braces on. Whenever our gym class had to do the half-mile run, I was always the second to last kid to finish the half-mile run. Mark Larkin was the last kid. And it was like, when I hit 15 and 16, that year and a half there, I shot up in height. My braces came off. I suddenly had new confidence and I got a job. And it was like my life made this change. And it sounds like that, getting that job at that, you were like, what, 14 at the time, 14 or 15?
14 and turning 15 that August.
Yeah. And that kind of began that kind of that new path for you too. I totally understood that. And so
I rose up from there. Yeah.
Do you still go down there? Do you still go down to the shore, to that house?
I went to the shore a couple of years ago to see my sister, and I was there for a few days. I'm definitely going to try to get down there again this year. She's a teacher, so she's there all summer. But yeah, I'd like to get down there and see her. And I have to go to the Wildwood Historical Society because they want to carry my book in their shop.
Of course they do. Yeah. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, we'll be back in just a second. I have to do some shameless self-promotion for a couple of my books, but we'll be back, folks, in just another minute with Charles Wiedemann.
It's time to grab your beach reading. Your great escape is waiting at TomCranceBooks.com. Contemporary fiction in the Bud and Maggie series, sci-fi adventure in the Earth Moon Rescue series. Visit TomCranceBooks.com for detailed descriptions and links to the ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook editions. That's TomCranceBooks.com. You deserve a great escape.
So a couple things I want to cover in this part of our episode here. You talk about some of the death-defying rides. And when I mentioned the hellhole to my wife, my wife was a Wildwood person. She's a few years younger than me, but I think we had one in Ocean City too. There's a picture of the hellhole in your book, which I'm going to throw up for our viewers here. That ride still scares the shit out of me, and I've never gone on it. I've always only looked down at it. Describe, if you can, the most graphically as you can, what is the hellhole ride?
The hellhole. So I believe it was on Sportland Pier, which was the first pier on the boardwalk, from north. And out front is this giant demon holding a trident, and you go into this ride. Now, there's two ways to go in. You can ride the ride for X amount of tickets, or you can watch the ride for less tickets. Now, you'll see in my book, although I'm in this beautiful island paradise with tons of amusement rides, I don't like heights or deep water or things that swirl and spin around. So my sister Jane, she can do it. My sister Nancy can do it. I'm scaredy cat. I don't want to do all those things. I like being on the ground, something that just goes around on a little track through a ride and boo. And the hellhole is a cylinder. Think of a giant barrel that's a cylinder. People go into it and they all stand with their backs against the wall in a circle. And then they close the door and they're in this cylinder. Now, me watching from above, I will describe what happens. The cylinder begins to turn, and it begins to turn faster and faster. And as it gets going really fast, they begin to lower the floor out of the cylinder, and centrifugal force is keeping the patrons stuck to the wall, spinning around. And I'm watching this, and they flash the lights and do all this stuff. And I go, this is horrific. Why would anyone pay money to be dizzy and nauseous? And it just looked horrible to me, and compressed and terrified. But great name. The
I wonder,
Hellhole.
you think is that ride still exist? It doesn't seem like that would pass OSHA standards in this year.
I bet you it exists.
I bet
somewhere.
you it does.
And we should go find that, Tom.
I know,
I bet it's
unbelievable.
somewhere in some amusement park out in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
somewhere.
standing up at the top and looking down at that cylinder as it spins quicker and quicker, and the people are pasted to the side of the wall by the centrifugal force. When the floor disappears, it's like, there's 20 people in there shitting bricks. I never could have done it because I get motion sickness, and there's no way. I mean, I would have hurled all over the place. But that was a memory that really struck home with me, because that brought back everything. It brought back the smells of the French fries, the fresh French fries at all those places on the boardwalk. And in Ocean City, the big pizza place was Mac and Manco. I don't know if they had those in Wildwood or not. Mac and Manco pizza, there were like 4 of them in Ocean City, and I think they got sucked up by some conglomerate now. But there was nothing like the taste of that pizza and the taste of those fries on the boardwalk. And a fun thing we used to do would be to grab a thing of fries, sit on a bench by the rail overlooking the beach, and then watch the seagulls come down and try to steal your French fries. I actually hated that, but it was part of the whole game.
I saw a seagull steal a whole funnel cake from a girl's paper plate one day.
I believe it.
And I was like, man, they are aggressive. I mean, you open a bag of chips on the beach, they're there.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the sound or the smell or both, but Jersey Shore seagulls are little bitches on wings, I'm telling you. So tell me, I think I asked you about this earlier, but I'm interested in your writing process. So you talked about kind of taking notes as you go along and as things come to you. When it comes down to actually sit down on that old computer, which you just told me you no longer have, and to actually write, how do you do that? Do you do that in like a quiet room? Do you do it with music? Do you set up a certain time of day apart to do that? Or how do you do that?
It depends. Mostly when I'm creating, I do like some music on in the background, but it's usually quiet classical music. And I like classical, but as you know, I like rock and roll and hard rock and things like that. But for me, there's something about classical music in the background played very quietly as I create. I would, do that in a Word doc or some sort of Google doc and go from there and just build the stories that way. That's what I've done for my blog, and that's what I've done.
Yeah, your blog is phillyfickle.com.
Is Fickle Philly.
Fickle Philly, shit, sorry.
And it's not an F for Fickle, it's PH because it's Philly.
It'll be up on the screen so people can see it.
Fickle Philly on WordPress. Yeah, that's my blog that's been around since 2016. And that's been really good. It's been going for a long time. And I need to get back to writing it because I've been so busy with the Wildwood book, I haven't had time.
So the Wildwood book, it seems to bring forth a little bit of anxiety when you talk about it. Like it seemed like it was I don't know if burden's the right word, but it was quite a project to do. Why was that?
Well, what I did was when I did my other books, I just wrote them and hoped that I could get it together and it would pass and it would publish. And it was kind of like learning and building up to the moment of Lawndale. Lawndale sort of had a deadline, but that got pushed out to August. And I went, I know, I'll just release it on my birthday. And I didn't have any expectations for that book. I knew the stories were good. It had a built-in audience in Lawndale and Longcrest. People already loved some of the things I posted about being back to tracks and Lawndale and our time in the, playing there and living our lives. But for this book, it came right after it. Like last time you and I talked, when Lawndale was out, you said, "What are you working on?" I go, "Oh, I'm working on a Wildwood book." I wanted Wildwood. You've seen Philly. What do you do in the summer? Let's go to Wildwood. It needs to come out on the heels of this the very next year, which put a great deal of pressure on myself. I've created all this stress in my head with my own deadlines, and it was like Memorial Day, and that didn't happen. And I go, I have to get this out by the first day of summer, because this is the Wildwood book. There isn't another book like it. No one has ever
Right.
done in the 70s. And
Well, and you
about
did. You succeeded.
life.
It was out in time for summer.
Yeah. So the stress was my own design. Like I'm good with deadlines. I've done a lot of freelance writing, and I'm good at meeting a deadline and coming in early. But for something the size of this, with so much data and all the parts that you need to do, you've written books, you're an author, introduction, afterword, front cover, back cover, all that front matter, back matter stuff, all that stuff that needs to be to make a book complete, was just daunting. It just went on forever, and it's every day. I'm waking up at 5, 6 in the morning and writing, and then going to work for 8 hours, and then come home at night and go, "Oh, I just remembered about this thing. I got to put this in with my dad." So I created all this stress and pressure myself, because I wanted a book to come out 9 months later. Like, this baby needed to be born after Lawndale. So,
well, sometimes we have to push ourselves, Chaz, and that's what you just proved to yourself. There you go. So you're still working? Do you have your day job in the finance industry or whatever you're doing?
no, I actually work at a hardware store about a block and a half from here, and I love it.
Really?
Yeah. I've told you I was in banking and advertising and everything. And after COVID, I just wanted to work at a little job somewhere and not be end up in the restaurant industry or anything. And there's a hardware store called Rittenhouse Hardware at 20th and Pine, a block and a half from my house. And I walked in there and I said, "Are you guys hiring?" They said, "We got some people leaving. We could maybe use you." And I said, "Every time I've come in here for something, you always have what I want in this hardware store." And I came in with my resume, and I got that too. So I've been there for 2 years, and I love it. It keeps me busy. I'm serving the community, and it's nice to be needed and have something to do at my age, and not be, sitting in a cubicle, typing emails and, prospecting clients, which I still love to do. But
that's really a great post-COVID story. Not all post-COVID stories are so good, as I'm sure you know.
I really like that.
A lot of people never found work again, and but you get to go to work and actually be in a business where that's within walking distance of your house. That's really cool. So this is the part where we tell everybody where to find the book, where to find you. So your book is on sale where?
It's on Amazon, and you can get it on Kindle or in paperback. You simply type my name in, Charles Wiedenman. I don't know if you just type in Down the Shore under books, it'll come up. But if you type my name in, all of my books will come up, and the book Down the Shore will be first. So you'll see it at the top of the page.
And how many other books have you written?
I've written 7 other books, 2 fiction and 5 nonfiction.
So hopefully, I can't recommend highly enough, by the way, the book Lawndale. And it's not just because that's where I used to live. I lived in a neighborhood just slightly south of where Charles lived. I lived another mile down Rising Sun Avenue in Northeast Philadelphia. But it's a real look at life in the 70s in, I call it inner city living. They were houses that were packed together. I lived in row homes. He lived in what looked like a twin or a duplex, but it's all the same. You're living with a lot of kids around you, very little spaces. There was no internet. There was no video games. We made up games with the wires overhead and the steps and the walls around. And it's a great book, Lawndale. It's only been out for a year, but it's all over Amazon. And look up Charles on. Also, you have a Facebook. You're on Facebook, correct?
I'm on Facebook myself. There's also a Fickle Philly Facebook page as well. The book, the Wildwood book, Down the Shore, will be available at the Wildwood Historical Society down on Pacific Avenue, sometime in July. When I get my author copies, it'll be there as well.
Once again, I wish you all the success with the book. I have my copy. I'm going to continue reading it this week.
Thank you.
But folks, look for Down the Shore by Charles Wiedemann. And while you're at it, pick up Lawndale by Charles Wiedemann as well. Chaz, great to see you. Congratulations on getting a nice new computer. And we'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Tom.
All right, brother.
Thank you.
Take care. Hi, folks. Tom Krantz here. I appreciate you tuning in to my podcast, Type Tune Tint, and I especially appreciate those of you who have subscribed. I started this subscriber thing in July of 2024, really just as a way of recouping a little bit of the costs of doing this podcast. There's website hosting, and there's WordPress additions, and occasionally I buy a book so that I can actually know what I'm talking about when I interview an author. You can subscribe to this podcast for as little as $3 a month. Comes off your credit card automatically, and for $3 a month, you get the satisfaction of knowing that you're helping keep this podcast going. I'm in my 5th year now, but also I will occasionally offer exclusive content just for subscribers. So give it a shot. I appreciate you taking the plunge. You can unsubscribe anytime you want. If you have any questions or comments, of course, you know how to get in touch. So please subscribe, and I appreciate it. Thanks.